What most people don't realize about flipping houses is that it's not about finding a cheap property. It's about finding a predictable process. Today, we're breaking down a 5-step system that does just that. The number one reason flippers and builders fail isn't bad luck. It's actually a broken operating system. We're talking to a guy who's built a bulletproof one for generating consistent profit in any market. You're listening to Beyond the Bid, the show by Go First, where we share the systems, sales strategies, and practical AI for builders. Keep listening to learn how to win more of the right projects, boost profitability, and scale your company beyond the bid. Excellent. And we're back. All right. Welcome back to Beyond the Bid. Today's guest, as promised, we have Donnie Korum joining us from the Foreclosure Profit System. Donnie.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me, Grant. Super excited.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. I know we were just chatting off camera for a second, and it seemed like you were getting a little bit of a workout in, dropping off a vanity.
Yeah, you feel like in this consulting model that you're just going to be behind a desk delegating, but every now and then you got to run out, grab a vanity out of the back of a truck, 150-pound vanity, get it inside the house, right, and get it all figured out. So none of this goes exactly as intended, but that's what I love about the gig. It's a constant state of change, never a dull moment in my space, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Going from breaking a sweat to putting a suit on.
There you go, man. Gotta look good. Gotta look good.
Well, yeah. Thanks again for taking the time to join. I guess for those who aren't familiar, do you mind if I just kind of, hand the mic over to you for a second to kind of give a little bit of like your backstory, maybe your origin story, and really just kind of what was the momentum behind not only starting your own company, but also with, the system and the framework that you put together with Foreclosure Profit.
Sure. Well, it all started doing my first flip. As so many investors got to start somewhere, I did my first flip. I managed to do everything wrong. I bought an old style Victorian house. Don't do that. I had no idea how to do construction. I'm a little more advanced now with the GC license, but if you don't know much about construction, it's a tough area to get in. And I didn't know my numbers, so I buy this flip. I managed to screw everything up, but man, it walked out of that deal with $17,846.32 in profit. But who's counting, right? For 20 years and 400 flips later, or so, one of which made the national news, #Springs Hellhouse, check that one out. But I developed the process that any investor can now follow to find, figure, fund, fix, and flip their own foreclosure deal with an average target profit at $25,000. I took all the complication that is involved in flipping and try to simplify it down to a very easy to work process that anybody can do with the right guidance and training, which is what I provide in the Foreclosure Profit System.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Just for those who didn't hear, can you go through those steps again?
Sure. Find, figure or analyze, fund, fix, and flip. It's a 5-part step that you have to do on every single flip you're going to do. You got to figure out where you're going to get the deal, right? And the Foreclosure Profit System takes that hassle out of it for you. We locate the deals on behalf of our clients. Then we analyze that deal copiously. And I'm not just talking about the number analysis that a lot of wholesalers want to do, right? We dig in real deep, construction estimates, labor bids, material estimates. We're really dialing in what's going to go into the property, and then we add the numbers: buy price, rehab price, and sale price. The funding, that's pretty obvious. We're going to get the capital to do the deal. I'm a hard money broker myself, so I can locate the capital on your behalf. And then where it gets really dicey, and how you and I met, Grant, was that fixed stage, right? How do we get the contractors and really dial in the process of getting an ugly house to pretty? And then finally the flip stage, marketing and selling the property, where we partner with agents in the area to get a severe discount on the listing commission, so you're not blowing all your costs on commission, but rather keeping more of the profit by getting that stuff dialed in by offering volume to our agent partners. So it's really an end-to-end solution for investors who are committed to doing this and just understand they need help to get there. If you're going to take this on your own, good on you. But in my world, I think it's so important, Grant, to just find the right process and follow it to get the right success results.
It absolutely is. Yeah. No matter what you're doing. I mean,
Right.
Anytime you're taking on a big investment or, looking to mitigate any amount of risk, going to essentially like a guided expert who has a tried and true process, it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. And a lot of people, I always relate it to getting your pilot's license, right? You're not, if you decided tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and I'm going to fly a plane, you're not going to go to the airport right now, find the first plane you see, hop in it and try to figure it out. And if you are going to do that, I am not getting on that aircraft with you, right? So that's just not the way to do it. But it's funny with flipping, like a lot of people just kind of go, I'm going to sort this out as I go. I'm going to figure out on YouTube. It's a bad idea. I think the best thing somebody can do is committed to doing a fix and flip or any investment vehicle is to get the guidance and training first. That way they're prepared for whatever comes to them. That's how you really can prevent losing and increase your probability of winning on a flip deal.
Oh, yeah. You brought up a really interesting point or interesting example too. Like I'm based in Fort Collins in Colorado, but I grew up in Monument, so I've spent the majority of my life in Colorado. And the Springs Hellhouse is a really interesting one.
Yeah.
Did you have any part, or did you have any work or anything with that place?
That was our flip. We identified that deal. So we found that. And well, I mean, I honestly, it had made the news kind of before we bought it. But once I saw it was on the news, because we're from Colorado Springs, Colorado as well. We're currently in Scottsdale, Arizona, because I got to be honest with you, Grant, I'm done with your weather. That was my last year. I'm never doing that again, ever again. But we did the Springs Hellhouse. It made the national news on both the buying it and on the selling it. And in addition to it being great publicity for the system, it was also an opportunity. We made over 6 figures on that deal. That was a $108,000 profit flip, And so it was great opportunity, but also great exposure. And it really showed people that no matter how bad the house starts, if you follow the right process, when you get to the end, you can have a great time, you can make some money, and you can make the news. Right. So it kind of comes down to buying the right property. So hashtag Springs Hellhouse. There's some great videos where the news came out and interviewed my wife and I about that.
Oh, yeah. I'll make sure that for those listening, I'll link it in the show notes too, just because that story is crazy.
It was crazy. They let some meats die they had this huge meat fridge. They decided they're going to unplug that. So that was like the worst smell I've ever experienced in my life. It was pretty bad. Let some cats die in the laundry room. PETA launched a protest because of the cats in the laundry room. And then they graffitied all over the walls because they were upset because they hadn't paid rent in a while and they were being evicted. So decided to take that out on the landlord, So terrible thing for the seller in that deal, but great opportunity for us. We turned that house around. Somebody got a beautiful home out of the deal. And the after story, Grant, this is interesting. The buyers bought this thing sight unseen from out of the country, right? And then, didn't turn the utilities on. So they were moving in here from Germany and they failed to get the utilities on. So when they got there, the pipes had frozen because this is Colorado in like February. And so then they were upset with us and said the plumbing work was not done. I'm like, look, bro, look, you're moving to Colorado. I'm sorry nobody told you got to turn the utilities on day one, but they actually ended up having to redo a lot of that house because they didn't get here on time, and they got it was springtime by the time they arrived, so it survived the winter without utilities, which is not good for Colorado homes.
Oh man, that house has some war stories. It sounds like.
Oh man, almost cursed, but we did fine. So yeah. Worked out for me, but a lot of people along the way, even the new owners, I generally felt bad for them, but it was just one of those things where we sold it and thought everything was fine, then found out later they didn't bother to turn the heat on. So that's
crazy. Well, so this kind of brings up a really interesting point of the industry, or the I guess the sub industry that you're in. It for a lot of people, it actually brings up kind of a sense of like distrust or a bad taste in their mouth because, for one reason or another, maybe they had a deal fall apart, or, they got burned or something happened. So knowing that, how do you kind of, still play a role and kind of overcome that challenge?
A lot, like you nailed it. A lot of people have had a bad experience in the real estate investment world. And I think a lot of it really comes down to the integrity of the person guiding you. I fashioned myself as a trusted financial advisor. I have a Series 65 license. I'm looking to make this an investment vehicle. We happen to be using real estate as our tool of choice, right? Yeah. But it's not the typical thing where I'm a wholesaler out there who just found a deal from a seller, knows nothing about the profit, and is looking to tack a $30,000 assignment fee on this deal. We really take this to the point where we want an end-to-end solution. Why? Because we're great people? No, it's because it's good for us. You got to think about it. If you get to the end and you make a profit of $25,000 or more, you're going to come back and do another deal. right? As opposed to if you get that bad taste in your mouth and you don't get the results that you want, and not all deals are great, not all deals are even profitable. And anybody who says otherwise is blatantly lying to you, okay? But if you got a team around you that cares about the outcome, because there's an incentive for that team to get to the next deal, your probability of success goes up and everybody can win in an environment where people just care about the results.
I love that. Yeah. I guess in that sense, was that kind of the idea around your community is, let's bring these like-minded people together. Let's have the community kind of show the process and show the results of the process.
Yeah, that really was it. I've got experts in every one of the 5 steps. I got an acquisition team to help us find deals. I do most of the analysis myself because if I'm going to stamp my name to the analysis, I want to make sure that it's solid. We have a funding manager, obviously, to put the money together and get the right lender, because it's not any hard money lender. It's the right hard money lender for that buyer and that deal, right? And then the construction team, the project management part. Who's running the show? We got a product manager who's more remote. Then we got a local project coordinator who's boots on ground for the property. And then finally, the agents. Not a lot of agents out there who are willing to even offer the discount that we ask for our clients, much less provide any level of service with that discount. So we have to work very hard to vet the team, and everybody that's a part of this cares about the next deal, right? We got to get through this deal so we can get paid again for the next deal. I think that's what most of these investor gurus out there lack, is they're selling you the education, right? They're not selling you the process, right? They want to get you into a deal, maybe, if they even care about that. But they don't care at all if you get backed out of that deal, because there's no incentive for them on the deals, because they made $30,000, $40,000 selling you the education.
Right.
They lower the price of the entry so people could get in more affordably, and then they can invest that money instead into actually doing deals that are going to provide a profit on the back end.
I love that. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So you brought up an interesting point around the working with different agents and kind of getting them to, I think you said discount.
What was the word?
How do you like approach that? Because that's, I'm sure, such a sensitive topic for a lot of different, agents and people in the space.
It truly is. And, my wife's an agent, so I need to make sure she's not around before I say this. Agents notoriously are not good at their job. So let's just start with that fact, right? There's a lot of bad actors in that industry. So how do you get a guy to give a discount and provide full service? You offer volume. And this is something that the standard one-off investor simply can't do. If you go to an agent and say, I want you to discount your listing commission, and I might have another deal for you in 90 days or 6 months, what's the incentive, right? But with my system, because we're partnering with 50 investors right now that are in the system, we can offer volume to the agents. They know that the next deal is coming up already, and they're enticed to provide a high level of service at a lower rate, because we can offer the volume that the independent investor simply can't offer on their own. So it's not a tough subject to broach when I say, hey, if I could give you 40 listings this year, right? Would you be willing to take that on at this rate? For agents who can't handle that volume, they're going to turn me down. But for our agents, they want the volume. They like keeping busy. Sure, they're making less per deal, but it adds up over time. They're building strong relationships with their clients, what a good agent actually cares about.
Absolutely. And yeah, they're getting that, that consistent quality work, and not having to hustle and grind for the same quantity.
Yeah, the model that really figured this out was Redfin, and it worked until it didn't, right? But the idea of putting agents on salary was this foreign concept up until Redfin came along. We're really copying that model. Like, we're going to give you volume and consistency in exchange for a much lower rate. It's worked great for Redfin. It's really working great for our Foreclosure Profit System members, or even less than Redfin. So at least down even cheaper than they can offer.
Yeah. So that brings up a pretty interesting topic, because, we're like, part of this show, part of most of what I talk about nowadays is like this age of AI that we're in. And we actually got connected because I think a post on Buildxact's Facebook group, or it was NAHV or something, it was built out an idea that you had of that really could ultimately streamline, I think, so much of pre-construction and rendering, and just the way that projects are really conveyed to clients. And I know we also had chatted about some mutual tools that we use. Like Deal Check is a really cool one.
Love that one.
Yeah, such a Anton and his team. Shout out to you guys, because that's
I had him on my show too. Anton's a great guy.
yeah. But is that one of the primary tools that you guys use to do literally your deal analysis?
Yeah, and I think it's so important to remember that deal analysis is 90% of this. You make your money in real estate when you buy. You've definitely heard that saying, but the buying has to be done with the proper analysis prior to pulling the trigger on owning the property. So many investors are so eager. It's like that Tommy Boy scene, right? Where he's playing with and he calling his bro, like, I got a deal, right? People are so eager when they get the deal. If they throw analysis out of the way, it'll work out. And that's where they lose money. So we use Deal Check. As I mentioned, we're using, the Buildxact. The idea is to start rendering these properties prior to starting the construction. So we get a Matterport tour. So we've got a digital twin of the property, and then using the AI now, and it's early stage, it's not quite where it needs to be, but working with you, Grant, has been great to discover where its limitations are and where it's working now to basically dive into this property, build our scope of work, build our labor estimate, and build our material estimate, all using AI tools and the imagery that we can gather from the Matterport, coupled by putting all that data into the Deal Check tool. So we've got solid, comprehensive numbers. Nothing is left to chance. Obviously, we can't guarantee the outcome, but by doing predictive analytics using AI, we can get ahead of the curve quite a bit now. And the tool is so early. Imagine where this is going to be a couple of years from now, the capabilities that are going to happen compared to where we are now. And today, I'm shocked at what you've gotten done in the construction visualization and how far this can go just with the tools that are available now.
It is. It's an amazing ride to be on. The first time you and I chatted, I think I spent an hour and a half afterwards just documenting my brainstorm, of how to possibly connect, these different tools together.
Yes.
And it's nothing short of amazing what you can do with tools that are literally commercially available. More often than not, they're free, or at least on a freemium,
Sure.
But yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And just, the foresight that you've had, being able to, think through that idea of, is this actually possible to go from Matterport, which oftentimes is basically a series of images stitched together to create a 3D model of a site or a map, the full floor plan. And then to go from that and to say, I want it to look like this, and to have a comp model from, Redfin or Zillow or wherever you want to choose from. And then to be able to ultimately create, a scope of work from just those two data sets.
Yeah.
That's such a cool idea.
Well, you're merging the present with the future, right? And the idea is, this is where we are today in condition. This is where we want to be. What is that going to cost? Like, what actual man hours? Because, these construction guys, God bless them, and I got a GC license, so I understand, but they walk into a house and they're overwhelmed with, oh my God, this is a lot of work. Yeah, well, maybe it's the same square footage of walls it was before. It's the same amount of trim that it was before. It may be dirty and kind of ugly right now, but if we can take it to that fully remodeled house that sold in that same neighborhood 3 months ago, right, at full price or even above asking price, we can create that rendering and know what it's going to cost to get from where we are to where we're trying to get. You've completely changed the face of flipping. We can now have a digital twin that we can start trying to market and sell before we've even started swinging a hammer on the property, right? It's going to be different on the future of how that's going to be handled,
Absolutely. And being able to present that to potential buyers too, just, to build the hype, to build the intrigue on that property. Say, here's ultimately what you can expect it to, look like. Probably about a 90% accuracy rate. But, and then also, to have the tool to be able to walk them through the scope and the estimate and everything. Such a cool concept. Yeah, the kind of like, are there any other ideas that you've had in terms of, tools like this that can really scale or really improve the customer experience of a fix and flip?
Buildxact so far has been the best. That's really under your guidance. Just looking at the AI AI capabilities I had no idea were there, which is why I posted that and how you and I met. It's well advanced. I mean, compared to the other things that I've seen, it's well ahead. We use Buildertrend for a while. That's a great project management tool, but it doesn't, it kind of manages the product you have, not creates the product you want, right? I feel like Buildxact is much better at getting you from estimation to project management, but that's what it's going to take to scale this out. You're going to have to build this thing so it's got the ability to grow as the technology grows. And I feel like Buildxact, now I got to note, in the hands of the right person, Grant, because the learning curve is still kind of steep right now. And, just the stuff that you and I have developed in the last few, month or so, talking and working together, has really changed how I perceive the capabilities on this. It is still very early stages, but in the hands of a experienced operator like you, I think it's coming much further than I thought it could already. So I'm super impressed by what you've done with it and what we can do with it as we move forward.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been fun. That's kind of my jam. Is I love these tools. I love kind of pushing them to the limit, seeing what they're actually capable of. And so these types of interactions, the projects that you and I have been working on so far, I love that. It really gets my creative juices going, so to speak.
And it's good, like I said, it's good for the client. It's good for the people who want to get into the system. It's good for the construction workers, be able to see what this house is supposed to look like. And it's good for the end buyer who's going to buy this house and can now see the duplication of what we envisioned it being versus what it actually became later. I think everybody wins with this new technology.
Oh, absolutely. So that brings up another interesting point, the moving from Buildertrend to Buildxact, that alone is a pretty tremendous bucket of just change, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you, with your team, there's so many different project management methodologies and the way that people essentially try to get a handhold of these gigantic projects. Do you have any systems that have helped you and your team really like scale and get a firm understanding of, okay, here's where we're currently at with this project. Here's what I need to tell the client, any type of proactive measures there?
The only thing I would say that Buildxact doesn't do that I really liked about another app called JobTread is the client-facing piece of it, where you kind of have a portal, if you will, where the client, my clients are all over the country. We're doing deals in either Colorado or Arizona right now, but the idea is the client can be located anywhere. And so what I like, and that's getting better, is the client portals, being able to share with the client where we are in the process and as close to real time as possible. We use Slack to communicate, to keep communication going, but Slack is a communication tool, not really a project management tool. So there's some gaps there, but being able to connect that in JobTread and give them a client portal where it's like, here's where we are, here's the progress. The Gantt chart is something they can now access, or since they know where we're supposed to be versus where we are. A lot of this is about the client experience. If you completely remove that from this, then the client could, buy a mutual fund or something and maybe not experience quite the return, but they wouldn't have the parallel to people get into flipping because they want the experience,
That's right.
So if we can provide that interface where they don't have to get their hands dirty, literally or figuratively, but they get the benefit of being part of the flip, that's really the next world, is seeing that progression as we get from start to finish and letting them enjoy it. Because people want to show off to their friends, hey, I'm working on a flip in Colorado, but I'm based in Pennsylvania. So, the only way they can experience that is through the pictures and video. And I think some of the tools that are coming out to allow for client interface are also becoming critical to that feeling and emotion part of this that people want to be a part of.
Oh, sure. Yeah. The sharing, it's kind of like a show and tell.
Yes.
I always like that framing, but you're absolutely right. That's such a cool concept that, a time that we live in now, where basically you can manage a project, or you can manage your fix and flip from halfway across the country, all through, just project updates, different tools, as long as the relationship's true, I suppose.
And that's the thing. And the project manager has to be really, a lot of integrity goes to the project management side of that. And that's a tough role to find somebody from, especially if you've never done this before, And so I connect my clients with a project management system. My project managers are remote. They have a project coordinator who's local, so they can operate from anywhere as well, but they speak construction very well. And we know those GCs, They speak a very unique language that's largely founded in BS. Right, your transmogrifier is not working. What's a transmogrifier? These guys are very good at upselling the process, and I'm not knocking it. I'm a licensed GC. I get it. I know that's how they make their living. But having a product manager who speaks construction and an interface system that just keeps the client from being upsold constantly as to what else that house could use. A helicopter landing pad sounds like a great idea, but you're not generally selling to that level of client. So why are you putting one in, right?
Yeah.
The GC got a great idea one day, right? And that had a budget,
So you need a helicopter.
That's cool to have if you're going to put a landing pad, but it's a process, and if you don't know how to manage, you don't speak the language, it's very dangerous for investors to get into this at all, much less as a remote basis. The Foreclosure Profit System allows you to get into it remotely, and it's far from perfect, but because of these tools and the language that we speak, we've made it a lot easier for most people to get involved and make a really good return on investment from doing this from anywhere in the world.
I love that. I mean, obviously the results have been pretty significant. I think I saw that you've been on Fox and CNN, and it seems like you're all over the place you're almost like a celebrity of this space at this point.
I feel that way. Thank you for noticing. I appreciate that. I wanted to be recognized for music though, and I was trying to get a whole country artist act going. So like at some point, but I'll take this too. This will work.
We'll have to drop like a Spotify playlist or something.
There you go. I love to get my stuff out there. But yeah, man, it is becoming a local celebrity thing, and it's good and bad because the idea of building a system at this level is there are things along the way that are not working exactly as intended. And that's why I'm reaching out to consultants like yourself, Grant. It's like, okay, this is where I am, but I'm trying to get here on behalf of not just myself, but my entire system and clientele, because I see where the future is going. And I also know that bringing the best people in is going to be critical to that advancement and getting the system more and more dialed in and more profitable for all involved.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I guess one last question is for those of us who are just starting out, who are just, have a significant interest in this, in the fix and flip concept, but are scared to take the first step, or, for someone who is just, looking for that next investment, I guess, that the vessel, I think is what you called it. Do you have any tips and tricks to get started?
I mean, that's a great setup, but I appreciate that. Get help. I really think in the end, we go back to that pilot example, right? Why even attempt this on your own? After I got my first flip done, after doing everything wrong and still managed to make a profit, I lucked out, and thank God for that. But would I do that again on my own? Not a chance. It was stressful. It was difficult. It was scary. And I could have lost my shirt on that deal. Instead, I went and found a mentor, and I invested heavily with the proceeds I made from that first deal in a mentor that guided me through the next 50 deals at least. And the reason I'm here, 400 deals later is because of that mentorship. I don't believe I'm the end all be all to system coaching or training in the flip world, but I believe I'm a stop along the way for a lot of people. And if you are just getting started, I highly recommend starting with the Foreclosure Profit System. You're not just getting a top grade expert in myself, but a whole team of people with 100+ years of combined experience that can walk you through any flipping situation you're going to encounter along the way and keep you out of hot water. So while you're building your knowledge in doing this, you're surrounded by experts who can keep you out of, getting in trouble early on. Because that's what takes people out. If you're not heavily capitalized early on, you can't afford to lose money on your first couple of deals. So you really got to focus on the people you bring into your team early on. And the Foreclosure Profit System just does just that for you.
It kind of seems like insurance too, for anyone who, is potentially getting into a deal. Just having a whole suite of, of experts or other analysts backing you and saying, yeah, this checks all of our boxes.
Mm-hmm. And think about what other models in the investment space use that. Mutual funds, REITs. You look at all the other vehicles that bring a bunch of people together who already have expertise in that area, then you're putting your money behind that. You're not going out there and trying to fly solo and figure this thing out. You're putting your money behind a proven system that's getting results today and is incentivized to find the next deal. And that's where I take reserve with some of the gurus out there who are just selling education packages, because they're trying to educate you on something that if you never do it, what difference does it make? In my system, the whole design is getting you through that first deal right away. So we get to the second, third, and fourth, and et cetera, because the entire team is compensated based on getting to the next deal.
I love it. That makes perfect sense. So for that audience who, is either in a deal or looking to just learn more about this, how can they find you? How can they get connected?
Yeah, head out to foreclosureprofitsystem.com. There's a quick informational video there, and then we can schedule a chat. No pressure. I only take 4 clients a month into the system because we are a boutique firm. We're not one of the mass guys who are booking stadiums and whatnot, signing up hundreds of people at a time. We want to work with individuals who are looking to change their lives through doing this fix and flip thing, So you head to Foreclosure Profit System, register for a call there. We'll hop on a call and determine this is the right investment vehicle for you based on your current financials, your risk tolerance, and honestly, your pure desire to do this. Because if you're only halfway in to flipping, this is not the right investment vehicle, right? This is something you really have to want to do because no matter what, every deal has its challenges. The good news is with my team, we're going to help you to navigate through those challenges, but this is not for everybody. This is for a very specific subset of people who knows what they want and understands this is a great way to build wealth as long as they can surround themselves with the right knowledge and team.
Makes perfect sense. Well, Donnie, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed this conversation. I learned quite a bit. I hope everybody listening did too. But yeah, thank you for taking the time.
Hey, absolutely my pleasure, Grant. Thanks so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Beyond the Bid. If you've already subscribed to our podcast, consider sharing this episode with another contractor, builder, or remodeler who you think could benefit from some of the takeaways.